proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of a proposed site? No. Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site? No. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies? No. The proposed action may result in a new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer? No. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding? No. Proposed action may include a state regulated air emission source? No. Proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna? No. Proposed action may impact agricultural resources? No. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource? No. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource? Yes. So now we go to A. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on or has been nominated by the New York State Board of Historic Preservation for inclusion on the State National Register of Historic Places. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites in the New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on the New York SHPO inventory. No or small impact may occur. 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in the loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environment area, CEA. No. Impact on transportation. Proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No. Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. No. Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure or new or existing resources of contaminants, or sources of contaminants. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans? No. And the proposed act, that is a double negative, so anybody who questions, the lawyer and I went back and forth on that. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character? No. And section 3, I don't really have to read section 3 as well. Upon review of the information recorded on this EAF as noted, plus the additional support information, the map of project location, they want to know the materials. We have them included in the law. Map of the project location, a copy of the local law enumerating the lots by SBL number, the recommendation from the town board, the current zoning map, and no impact notice from the Ulster County Planning Board. And considering both the magnitude and importance of each identified potential impact, it is the conclusion of the town board of the town of Shandaken as lead agency that A, this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. So with that, if we're all in accord with everything I've read here, I can figure out what else I see on the page as well. Sorry, folks, there we go. With that being said, whereas the town of Shandaken is looking to adopt the town of Shandaken local law number 1 of 2014, amending the zoning map for the town of Shandaken Hamlet, therefore be it resolved that the town board has determined that the approval of the town of Shandaken local law number 1 of 2014 will not have significant adverse impacts on the environment, and be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the supervisor to take such action, such further steps as might be necessary to discharge the board's responsibility as lead agency for this action, including but not limited to the issuance of a negative declaration consistent with this resolution, and move its adoption.
I'll second.
Board Member Bernstein?
Yes.
Board Member Digley?
Yes.
Board Member Malloy?
Yes.
Board Member Storr? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
Resolution 143-14. Resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Shandaken adopting local law number 1 of 2014. Whereas the Town Board of Shandaken is considering adoption of local law number 1 of 2014, a law amending the zoning map for the hamlet of Pine Hill. And whereas the Town Board has received a letter of recommendation from the Town Planning Board, a notice of no impact from the Ulster County Planning Board, and has held a public hearing on said law from October through November 5th, 2014, with no adverse comments and received. And whereas the possible environmental impact of local law number 1, 2014 have been considered by the Town Board, and said board has issued a negative declaration under state environmental quality review. Therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board hereby approves and adopts Town of Shandaken Law, Local Law Number 1 of 2014, amending the zoning map of the Town of Shandaken, Hamlet of Pine Hill, and the Town Clerk is hereby directed to file said law with the Office of the Secretary of the State in accordance with the state law, and move its adoption.
I'll second. Board Member Bernstein?
Yes.
Board Member Digley?
Yes.
Board Member Malloy?
Yes.
Board Member Storr? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes. That took a few minutes.
Good job.
Okay. File that for you. And we'll move on to open public comment.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, for hearing us this evening. My name is Sharon Ostrander, my husband Norman. In the Shandaken Rural Cemetery, we had an issue. In 1963, my father-in-law, Lloyd Ostrander, bought 8 plots in the Shandaken Rural Cemetery. And it seems that in 2010, a gentleman, Mr. Story, our corner markers were removed and Mr. Story was buried into one of our plots. I called the New York State Division of Cemeteries, the number on the sign at the cemetery, spoke with a Mr. Breen. Mr. Breen came down to the cemetery and met us 3 times. First time, okay, we'll see what we can do, blah, blah, blah. Second time he came, we measured, he brought a stick, and he said yes, that the Story plot was in one of our plots. So it was agreed that during the next several months that when there was an interment at the cemetery, that they would at that time take the bucket backhoe to see if his vault was over there or if it was over further. Never got a call, okay? Another 9 months went by, nothing. Got in touch with Mr. Breen. Mr. Breen, meanwhile, Ken Herdman, who was in charge of the cemetery at the time, had gone away during Mr. Story's internment, and he did admit that, yes, the gentleman who did the internment that day misunderstood him, and instead of, because of when the plots were measured out originally, they did not allow for extra space for a vault. But now the law states you have to have a vault. So what was happening, Mr. Herdsman told us, was that the burials were put out 3 foot further into the pass so that there was still room for everybody's burial. And the gentleman who did the internment that day did not do that. He put the burial this way on our plot. So, go ahead.
May I say that the plots are 16, 8, and 8, and on each side of that, the 8 on the right, there would be a 3 foot to move
Path.
the ones on the right over into the 3 foot paths, and the one on the left, those 8 people over to the left in that 3 foot path. But since Mr. Herdman was not there, and the person who dug the grave told Mr. Herdman that he knew where to dig it,
He
and
did.
instead of moving Mr. Story over to the left, he moved him to the right over into our spot. And on top of that, the headstone is put over into us.
Okay.
And on top of that, our markers got moved.
So,
And they were moved, I believe even before, possibly before Mr. Story was put in.
so then at that time, Mr. Blaine, after several phone calls and certified letters to him, he hands it over to Mr. Fishman, Alan Fishman, who was an investigator for the New York State Division of Cemeteries, and we went through that. There was an attorney hired, then the funds had to be released from New York State Division of Cemeteries, giving the town board, the board of directors for the town of Shandaken Cemetery, permission to use emergency funds to hire an attorney to have the stories were spoken to, and they refused to have their loved ones
This is what we were
reinterred.
told.
This is what we were told. Ken Herdman went to them. So then I said, you know, what's our next step? What are we going to do? Mr. Breen said, well, we'll have to go before a judge, and the judge will have to issue an order that Mr. Story be moved over so that your plots are available for your family. So the funds were released, and Mr. Rosa, an attorney from Margaretville, was hired and refused calls, and finally he told Mr. Fishman, I don't know how to file this. So Mr. Fishman, another 3 months, told Mr. Rosa how to file it, how it had been filed in the past through the New York State Division. Mr. Rosa refused phone calls, refused to call Mr. Fishman. So then I got on their butts again, and Mr. Fishman and Mr. Breen said, well, we're going to declare the town of Shandaken Rural Cemetery abandoned. And I said, well, I spoke with Mr. Stanley, and he said, he's not taking over the cemetery right if there's litigation involved. He said, well, he's not going to have a choice. He's going to have to. So basically what's happened here is the state has dumped it in your lap. I called the Attorney General's office, and I told them, 4 years this has been going on, and it's not right. They've treated me shameful. I wrote Eric Snyderman a letter, certified. He's received it. I haven't heard from him yet. I did write a letter to Governor Cuomo and told him everything, that the New York State Division of Cemeteries has been terrible in this whole issue, and that they dumped it on you folks. It did happen in your town, the town of Shandaken, but on the same hand, it was really their mistake. They're the agency that overlooks this cemetery, this board of directors for the cemetery. They should have corrected this problem, but now unfortunately you haven't, shoved on you.
And we don't understand what the big thing is. I mean, it's not a case where Mr. Story has to be dug up, taken up out of the ground, and moved somewhere else. They have to dig out each end of the vault and slide the vault over, slide the stone over.
And it's all gonna be
put the
at their
markers where they
expense.
belong, instead of keep moving the markers, and instead of it being this way, it's like this way. And I know for a fact, because I was there, the headstone markers were definitely moved, and I can take any one of you up there and show you, because
Where
the
they
ground
were.
is still where they dug them up out and moved them over.
So
I know they were
I
definitely
know you had
moved
said
once.
to me, Mr. Stanley, that the Story family had agreed to, when the last burial was made, if he was in the way, that they would move him. That's unacceptable, because my daughter is going to be buried there. She's 40 years old. We're not going to be around when she dies. And let's face it, the last person that dies, who's going to speak for that person? Well, there's not room for you, Lucinda, so we're going to move you over here. That's not what my father-in-law had intended.
No.
My father-in-law wants to have us be buried as a family. Meanwhile, it was also offered to us to be buried elsewhere in the cemetery, and I said, absolutely not. If your father bought you and your wife and, you know, your children plots, and you are to be together, why do I want to be buried over on the hill by somebody else I don't even know?
We tried to do it the right way, and if they don't want to do it the right way, I mean, they leave us no choice.
But, and then you had also mentioned, Mr. Stanley, that these stories would sign official papers stating, so that it would all be there for the last person. Well, my reply to that is, let's say it's my daughter. She dies. She doesn't have any relatives under her. Who's going to fight for her to be buried by us? Her son? And if we've tried to solve the problem in 4 years, who's going to do it in 3 days so she can be interred by us?
The bottom line is, we're not leaving it to the last person.
We want
It's
to
got to
get
be
it
straightened
solved.
out, and it better be straightened out pretty quick.
Any other
If not-
suggestions?
If not, I'm gonna see the lawyer if it has to go to that, and somebody's gonna pay for every day that somebody is in that, on our property. And somebody's gonna be paying for the fees of the lawyer.
The court fees?
Because this is uncalled for. I mean, we had the plots, we had the deed to the plots, and it shouldn't have happened. It happened. We tried to do the nice thing and be civilized about it, and that's why we're coming here now as a last,
And believe me,
last resort.
I'm not gonna say too much, again, knowing that you're claiming about following through with litigation. But believe me, the town board knows how sensitive a subject it is for both families, and disturbing someone's peace and so on and so forth. The issue, what we had come to a conclusion with the Story family was the possibility of a document being attached to those deeds for those plots, so it would carry through. So in the case that it did come down the line, say 20, 30 years from now, obviously I don't think I'll be sitting here anymore either, but it would follow with the deeds for those plots, so when they did go to dig, then it could be corrected following that. Secondly, the issue is that it is a deeded plot, so your suit is really going to be against the Story family because it's against their deed, against your deed.
But it was also the error of the person who ran the cemetery.
At the time.
Who did the burials. So are you saying that we have to go after Mr. Herdman, who's a wonderful
No.
man? He's been
No,
so
you're
good
not.
to us.
Again, whatever your attorney is advising you,
Okay.
you're going to do what you need to do. I don't know where Mr. Herdman is going to have any say in it at this point any longer, now that the town has taken it over.
I know.
He was only the chair of that committee while that committee existed. And yes, as you said, the town was hesitant, and they were hesitant about turning it over while this issue still continued on. But that's the best I can say to you right now.
Well, where the town knows the situation, do you have an attorney to address the stories, to have them remove it?
We have an attorney for the
Are
town.
are you gonna have your attorney to address the stories? Since it's proven that he is on us and his
And now that it's
headstone
been-
is on us and our markers
Again,
have
I'm
been
going to
moved?
tell you that I've spoken to the attorney, and he said this is more of a civil matter between the two, between you and the Story family.
Okay,
It's
so
not
then
between you
we,
two. And I think there will be you can, again, try to reach out and have a civil discussion and see if we can resolve this civilly and try to
well,
get it
that's
done
what we've
properly.
been trying to
Again,
do. I mean, it was supposed to all be settled within the first year with Mr. Herdman talking with stories and explaining to him what happened and how that the people in the left side get moved over into the 3-foot walkway, the people on the right side. I mean, it's such a simple thing that,
He walked, Mr. Herbert, thankfully walked Eric and I around several times when we took over that cemetery, because we had to figure out how to maintain it with lawn care and everything else that needs to be done down there. So, again, we're gonna be applying for grants to hopefully straighten out the cemetery, get those markers realigned, get some of the headstones straightened up. But until that time, this is between you and the Story family.
No,
Okay, so-
it's, when push comes to shove, we have to sue. We will be suing the town of Shandaken because it is in your town, and now the cemetery is your responsibility. So I just want to say that publicly on record, that, we've gone all the
Yeah,
nice ways, and I understand that your hands are somewhat tied. I don't feel it's our place to go to the Stories. I mean, to go up to Mrs. Story and say, listen, can you just move your husband over? It's not up to us. We didn't dig the grave, we didn't put him there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and understand, I have, excuse me, just no horse in the race here. I mean, I'm just looking at what's the town's interest.
Yeah.
And when I talk to the attorney, again, he's saying these are deeded plots, which is
Okay.
a civil case.
Okay,
It's a property owner versus a property owner on a lot line of issue, yeah.
so if I was to build a shed on your property, that would be a civil issue, that wouldn't have anything to do with the town board
That
and
would
the
be a zoning
zoning
code.
and, oh yeah, it would be, yeah.
We are just a proprietor or management for a property.
Okay,
We had nothing to do with it.
it's on record, and
so,
that's what I
so
want.
yous are doing nothing then as far as,
Stop the conversation, but again, I will say that as we have in the past, for the past 6 months, we've owned the cemetery. We will try to find some civil resolution to this, playing an intermediary between yourselves and the Story family, unless you care to try to reach out to the Story family directly.
There's no sense in us because Mr. Herdman, I mean, I know Linda. I rode bicycle with Bruce when he was a kid there and lived next door about to me. I mean, my problem is not with them, other than whoever in their family does not want to let the right thing be done. If I was on their property, they would want me to move, and that's all I'm asking of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
But, okay, I mean, you know, I just wanted to know if we're gonna keep kicking the can down the road, or if we're gonna address the problem as it should have been when it first happened by whoever and taken care of to go this many years. But, you know, after a while, you feel like you're getting taken advantage of trying to be the nice guy. So, you know, I mean, if it comes to this, to where somebody's gonna be paying court cases, and I think somebody's gonna be paying for every day they've been into our spot. And I really don't want this, but if it comes to this, it comes to this.
Okay, Norm, let's go.
You know,
So-
just the fact that you threatened to sue the town, it puts this board in we can't really say anything.
Well,
We have
all
nothing to say.
I'm here to know, are you gonna do anything? Are you gonna put it into your lawyer's hands? Your lawyer doesn't know how to handle a case, or he doesn't wanna handle a case, or the stories are right here in town and, you know, whoops, whatever. I mean, I just, you know, I mean, we know no more now than when we came here. All I'm asking, are you gonna go talk to the stories and get back to us and let us know if the stories still wanna go that route?
Okay. Norm, they've already
You
said
know,
what they're going to do.
I mean, I don't wanna go up there and cause a big thing with Linda or any of their kids. I feel bad for them that it has to happen. But by the same token, if I was on their property, they would want me on. And like I say, it's not a case where they gotta take Bruce up and move him to another area in the cemetery. They gotta dig on one end and the other end and slide the hole over. And the same with the stone. And whoever marks out the cemetery, put the darn markers back where they were. But, you know, I mean, if you can't let us know that anything's gonna be done, I mean, we're just kicking the can down the road. Okay, I thank you. So you know our feeling on it, and if we don't hear any more from you, we'll just take it that, you know, we have to do what we have to do. And in the meantime, we'll be waiting to hear from Mr. Como's office because they're supposed to address the issue too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Rick?
I have to bring up a few things. Some people have asked me about we had those meetings with the engineers on the streams. When are we having the next meeting?
It's not scheduled yet.
Okay. Also, I was talking to people over in Tannersville, the creek over there, they took all the dead wood along the creek out of there in town. They went in with machines and took it out. You've got Big Indian Oliveria Road there that's gonna wash out the next time. You have to take those big piles of, I know I say it every time, but the last time we had a heavy rain, you know, I paced the floor because we're going to lose, you know, 3 or 4 places, you know, in the road on 28, old 28. You know, something has to be done. And look, you know, going to these meetings, these engineers, they're not going to dredge, they're not going to dig these big piles out. And up here on 42, going across to where Bobby Jones on the other side there, that all has to be taken care of too. They're going to lose the bridge in 28 there. And then also with the school, And when my brother went to that school there, my kids, 550 kids there. Now there's 141.
Which school is that?
Phoenicia School.
Oh, Phoenicia.
There's 550 kids there. There's 141 now. These kids, my younger son plays basketball there, and, you know, he really, you know, look forward to doing that. He works hard. At night he would go there and play. Now they can't play there. That's well, what good is this school here? They don't let you do anything up there. What's going on? We always play. I remember playing volleyball with Lonnie Gale and Bob Maroney, Neil Grant. We had some times up there. We had no problem. Now you're lucky you can get into the school. Oh. Okay. Different world. You see what's happening in this world now? You see what's going on?
You done with your editorials for them?
I wanted a few other things, but I forgot a lot of stuff with all this other thing that's going on. This thing you read off. I lost my train of thought. I had 3 or 4 other things that I wanted to bring up that were important. All right.
Yes. There's no further public comment. I'd like to take a motion to adjourn for us to go to executive session on a personnel matter. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting to go to executive session. So moved. We have a second? Second. All in favor? With that, I entertain a motion to open up executive session. So moved. So moved. Second. All in favor? Thank you. We will return if there's a decision.
Can you do
Do it again.
We closed our executive session. There was no decision made. We will be addressing it directly with the person that we were discussing. With that, I'll reopen the regular board meeting. Motion?
Make a motion, we go reopen.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, I entertain meeting adjournment. We'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Jacques Pons, Sr., James Perka, and John Oakley. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a safe and happy New Year.
You too, thank you.
Yeah, how's the thing?
Joyce, I'll give you this stuff in the morning for the